Well, it was 1 year ago at District Assembly that my wife Caroline and I attended our first Church of the Nazarene Assembly. I was at that time, I had the privilege of having my credentials transferred and became an actual pastor in the Church of the Nazarene, and I'm excited about that. God has done some amazing things over this past year, which is what we're here to talk about. It's about 2 years ago that my wife Caroline and I, in a pre-retirement move, came to Greenville, South Carolina. Primary purpose was to be with our son and his wife and 4 grandchildren. And we thought our life was going to be peaceful and manageable. And then I met Pastor Sam. And after that, things changed. Pastor Sam introduced Caroline and I to the possibility of Simpsonville LifeSpring Church as a revitalization, a replant. And so my wife Caroline and I came, met with their board, met with Pastor Sam, and just asked the question, is God done with LifeSpring? And we came to the conclusion, both the board, Pastor Sam, Caroline, and I, that God was not done with LifeSpring, and that there was more that he wanted to do here in this community. And so that started us on this last year's journey that has just been incredible. One of the first things that we did with our church family was go through the prayer journal, the 50 days of prayer. It was an incredible experience for Caroline and I, as well as our small core group of 6, where we met every Sunday and just went through what is God saying to us as a local church of the Nazarene. What is God saying to us as individuals? And several things through that journey came out. But maybe the biggest one was the week that we read from the Gospel of Luke, where Jesus said, "The harvest fields are ripe. Pray to God for workers to go into the harvest." And we kind of started realizing that what God was saying to us is that we were going to get workers from the harvest for the harvest. It was an incredible kind of an inspiration for us as we looked at our community and realized that God was not finished. And so we come over the past years as we've been church planting, both in Canada and the United States, that there are 3 times that people often, even today yet, will still look to the church. When they have their first child, when they move, and or they're going through a crisis. Well, where we live in Simpsonville, just outside of Greenville, people are having babies and they're moving. And so we realized very quickly that that was going to be a target group for us. And so as we looked through that study and said, God is looking for workers, who is he bringing into the life of your church? What gifts are they? What gifts do they have that they can bring? Caroline and I kind of looked at each other, smiled, and said, well, I think God's brought us. And what are the gifts that we bring? And my wife, Caroline, why don't you share? You have brought a lifelong early childhood educator.
So that is a big passion for me, and that is my life's experience, and my ministry has been to young families, to mothers. And so as a lifelong early childhood educator, I began to look at what are the needs of the families here in the area. And one of the ways I did that was actually through Facebook. Because we were moving here, I joined a couple of Facebook pages. One was moving to Greenville, South Carolina. And I noticed that moms were saying, hey, I'm new here. I have little kids. I don't know how to make friends. Would anybody like to meet up? Maybe we could go to a park. And so they would message each other, and moms would figure out, yeah, let's meet at this park at this day at this time. And so then a few days later, I would see a post that would say, hey, I went to that park. Nobody showed up. And so I said to Terry, I really think that if we offer something for young moms, they'll come. And so I started a Mommy and Me class. My background as an early childhood educator is that I've had children's centers and churches that we've been at. I've had preschools. I'm a licensed kinder music educator. But mostly I just have a heart and passion for young moms and young children. And I know how important it is to reach them during this vulnerable time in their lives. And a lot of these moms in the area don't have family around. And so they're missing grandparents and the support that the families can bring. So I decided to offer a little Mommy and Me class, just 45 minutes. and offered that through Facebook. And I knew that we would do things like little stories and little songs and finger plays, much like a library story time that you might be familiar with. And so I opened up 8 spots in a class, and it filled up. 3 weeks before the class was going to be held, I filled the first class. So I thought I better offer another one. And so I offered another one that would happen 2 weeks later. That one filled up. And so before I even had one class, I had filled 2. So I knew there was a great need here. And because I have that heart and passion, I knew that we could help to meet that need. And so the mummies came. And that was what I like to describe as like throwing out a net. I like to throw out a net and see who swims in, because we know that only God can draw people to himself. That's something that we learned actually in this study that we did years ago, Experiencing God. You might be familiar with that. But what Henry Blackaby says is that only God can draw people, but you do have to have a way to attract them and to bring them. And so I like to say that we held the Mommy and Me classes as a way to throw out a net to see who would swim in. And sure enough, we had wonderful mummies that came, probably 10 to 12 moms at the beginning. And out of that little group, we discovered some needs. We discovered more about the families. One family had no grandparents, brand new to the area, didn't know anyone, but pretty soon they start to take care of each other. They meet up, they exchange emails, become friends on Facebook. So through that course of doing that, actually we found out that one of the dads is a musician. So we decided, well, that's his gift and his passion. Why don't we see if he'd be willing to come and be a musician for us here? So we contacted them. They had faith, so they were willing. He was willing to use his gift. So that was better than singing a cappella every Sunday with our little group of 6. But pretty soon they came, they brought their grandparents. That added 5 to our group. So that's how we've been growing things along the way. I have more stories to share. But
and we will get there. So when Carol Ann, started realizing just how significant the need was for young moms in the area, we realized that the facility that we have here at LifeSpring is a phenomenal facility. Like it's awesome. It was just in significant disrepair. And so one of the initial things that we needed to do was to turn the facility around. We needed to clean it. We needed to just do literally everything in this facility, realizing that we couldn't do it alone. And so we started talking here about getting ready for company. What does that mean for us as a church? Some of the local churches, the Nazarene churches, came and helped us. And it was just a significant time where we saw God at work. We saw miracles happen. We had 6 air conditioners in the building. 4 of them were dead. But we realized that as we had a vision, God was going to provide, and he did. And through the district, we were able to get some of those replaced. We're working on the others. But then our church family started to see that God was at work, that things were happening, that as we trusted God, that he would provide. Very easy when you're small to think that you can't do anything, or you have to wait until something else happens. And God is faithful. And what we're realizing through our studies and through that prayer journal was the fact that if God is asking you to do it, he will provide for it. That presumes that you're hearing God. And so one of the things that we spent a lot of time doing was praying as a small group, seeking again, asking God over and over again, what is it that you have for this church? What is it that you want us to do? And then to step out in faith before we had all the answers. And our church family was continually amazed. I think they believed that God could do it. They had just never put him to the test. And so as we followed God, he provided. And we got to the point where we felt last September that we could actually begin to invite the community into the facility. We weren't done yet renovating. We weren't done refurbishing it. But we had enough space that was clean that we felt the moms would feel safe in bringing their children, and they did. And then that kind of fed even our church family, our community, as people began to see that God was at work here. Neighbors who had thought it was an abandoned building started to ask questions. started to ask, like, what's happening at that church? It's not closed? No, it's not closed. God is at work, and we're excited about that. And so we continue then, as God brings individuals, to see what gifts do they have. We use the gifts that we have. We like to say, Carol Ann and I, that she's an incredible networker, as you're seeing. She tends to bring the folks in. I tend to keep them. We work hard on the experiences that we have here, especially right now on Sundays. We have not a lot, but we do have Jesus. And we recognize that Jesus is always enough. Yet we also recognize, that people, when they're coming into a small church setting, have some expectations. And so we just try to acknowledge that we don't have everything. And that seems to be okay to them when they see that, in fact, we are working towards what God is leading us into. And so we've been doing that over and over again over these past 9 months, slowly. Maybe one of the frustrating things for Carol Ann and I has been, it hasn't been fast. Carol Ann has had over 120 moms, different moms, either on site over these 9 months or express interest and give some of their contact information to Carol Ann. We know that there is a need out there. We know that many of them are searching even spiritually. It's sad that they're not always looking to the church for answers. And yet, as we are the church, and someone shared with us, if we are the church, if we just be the church, God builds his church. And so, as Carol Ann mentioned, we've just kind of had it one step at a time, one family at a time. We're up to almost 20 people now, if everybody showed up on the same Sunday. And, for 1 year, it doesn't seem, like a lot, especially to me. But God is faithful, and he's just kind of doing that and showing me and showing Carol Ann that it's one step at a time. And we know that we're being the church to these families. They've been sharing slowly, even prayer requests, sharing things that are happening in their families. And through that, we are able to pray for them and then to see God at work in their hearts and in their lives. Most recently, we had the privilege of being part of a work and witness weekend. So thankful to the South Carolina District for doing that, for Scott Wade in organizing that for us, that we were one of their projects. And we had an incredible time. It was just back in June 15, 16, 17, that we had workers from across the state come and assist us. And one of the things that we wanted to do is not only work, and Carolyn, what was the work that we were doing? Why were we doing, because we have a house on the property.
Yes. So one of the things we realized through the Mommy and Me group is that the moms are telling us, and we're seeing it on Facebook too, that there's a great need in this area for a preschool, a mom's morning out, somewhere that children can come and receive a little socialization, a little bit of learning before they go to kindergarten. Not a full daycare, but more of a mom's morning out, give mom a little break, give the children another activity to do that would be enriching for them. And there's a great need in this area, long waiting lists in this area for that type of a program. So we considered that perhaps the house that we have on the property could be revitalized as well and turned into a little preschool facility. So Scott Wade organized the group, and that's what we did.
And it was awesome. We got it all painted on the inside. I mean, we're not there yet. Our goal is for January to have that start. But through that process, we had a witness portion to work and witness. And Friday evening, in between Thursday and Saturday, we invited all of the moms from the Mommy and Me to a cookout where those who could be here from the work and witness stayed. Some of our church family, guests from other churches came to help us. And we put on this cookout, and 21 families came to our property. And that was 21 moms and 21 dads. And that's been one of our focuses, is not only to get the moms here, but to get the dads here. And that's been a little bit more difficult for us to try to figure it out. But then we realized, if we grill, you're going to get guys. And when you grill, they're going to stand around the grill, and they're going to, of course, observe and see who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. And so 21 dads came, and then we had some grandparents came, and there were over 100 people here on our property. it was just an amazing evening of seeing God at work.
How many cars were in the parking
And there were
lot?
48 cars in our parking lot. We've never seen that many cars in our parking lot. And so those little things, when you're just wanting to see God at work, are huge. And so we took pictures of cars sitting in a parking lot because it's exciting, because it represents people, it represents families. And those are the ones, that we are wanting to share the good news of Jesus with. Those are the ones that we're wanting to impact. We're wanting God to speak to their hearts and to their lives. That He will nudge them, and like Carol Ann said, He's the one who draws them. But I think what we're finding is that it's taken us almost a year to begin to build the relationships, to earn the trust of these families, that they are willing to trust us with their children, maybe trust us with some of their questions. Is this a safe place that they can come not only to visit and feel welcome, but it's a place where they can belong? And so that's part of the vision that I'm casting to our church family and to these families. I had the opportunity at that cookout just to share with them that we believe that they're a part of what God is doing, whether they realize it or not. And if they have a church home, that's awesome. Then please pray for us. Ask your pastor to pray for us, that God's will be done in this part of His kingdom. And of course, if you don't have a church family and you're looking for one, we would so welcome you to be a part of LifeSpring Church. Because we realize, in all of this, as we're working with these families, we were told later on in this journey for us, because we've been trying, the tension between, not having an agenda, not having a bait and switch. We've been very careful with that tension, realizing that it's important for them to realize that we're here to be the church for them. But someone did share with us that if you're a follower of Jesus, you have an agenda. It just goes without saying, because Jesus, before He left, said, "Go into all the world and make disciples." So that is our agenda. We are here to share the good news of Jesus. I think it's just how do we contextualize that message in a way that will be safe for them to explore what I think is a very dangerous message, and that's the message of Jesus. And so through this journey, we are seeing that happen. The Sunday after the cookout, one new family was here at church, and because of that evening out. And so it's one family at a time. So Carol Ann, the one thing that we haven't talked about, another thing that you found on Facebook was, of all things,
a community garden.
Who knew that there is such a thing? I didn't.
So someone, I just want to say something about what you've been saying, though. The really important thing for us through all of this was more than doing events. And I know a lot of us in churches put on events thinking that will really help to bring the people in from the harvest. I know that we all want to harvest souls for Jesus. That's why we're all doing this. But the thing that we have found that really is the key is building relationships. And so that's why we've been more concentrated on what we've been doing. That's why we've been doing the weekly Mommy and Me. Come in every week, 45 minutes to an hour, and we bring out toys as well, and they sit and play and they connect. But that way we can build relationships. They can get to know us. They know where to park. They know where the bathroom is. They know what we look like. They know what the pastor looks like. It's not so scary to come in.
Not usually, no. But they know the little kids come running in, and Pastor Terry, Pastor Terry. So it is kind of cool.
So I just wanted to make that kind of clear that
That's good.
A big thing of what we're doing through all of this is building relationships as we throw out that net and we see who swims in and we plant those seeds, that we're building relationships with the folks.
That's a good segue, planting seeds.
How about that? To see where God is at work and what He's doing in their lives. Yes, planting seeds, the community garden. So here's what happened.
Where
Honestly,
did you find this?
On Facebook.
No, again?
Facebook.
Okay.
Facebook can be your friend, a very good friend, because you find the needs of people being expressed on Facebook. And so one day on the Simpsonville residents Facebook page that I joined to find out more about my community, what's going on, who's commenting, what are the needs, where's God at work. That's why I scroll Facebook, to see where God is at work.
Wow,
yeah. And so
that's a unique gift.
Yeah,
that you
somebody posted and said, hey, does anybody in Simpsonville area have property where we might be able to have a community garden? I said to Terry, well, hey, do we have any property where we could have a community garden? He said, oh, sure. And so I messaged back, hey, yes, we would have property at LifeSpring Community Church. We could have a community garden here. And so we started the work. We just laid out logs around the perimeter. We laid out cardboard on the grass. We measured it out. We got little planter boxes, raised bed garden boxes. We've been planting, and someone commented and said, hey, I'm going to move in just down the road from that garden. I'm moving in 2 weeks. I'd love to meet you all. So I messaged her back, well, we'd love to have you. And, oh, I noticed you have little children. Would you like to come to the Mommy and Me class that we have? And so sure enough, once she moved in, she came to Mommy and Me class. And once we met her and she saw the church and realized that she actually had strong faith and was looking for a church to belong to, and has since come. And I had just said to Terry, you know, we need someone close by. We need someone who is young. We need someone who can help us relate to other people here, be relational. And so not only is the harvest for those that are looking and need to come to Jesus for the first time, but we found folks from the harvest that can help us go back out into the harvest and bring in
Amen.
more. And so that family has come. They actually hosted Scott Wade from Work and Witness in their home overnight. And they were here on the property for the cookout. They were here first to help set up. They were here late to clean up. And so we've been blessed already. Just from offering a community garden, we built more relationships. We met more people. And so we've been excited to have them join the journey here with us as well.
Yeah, so the relationship sides, we have almost 6 acres of property. Most of it is grass. When we came, you know, the weeds were up to our knees in the parking lot, and it was the same throughout the property. Found a little card in the door of the church that someone had put in there. It was a local family that was doing lawn maintenance. We were in touch with them. They came and assessed the situation. I mean, 6 acres is quite a bit of grass to cut, and it takes hours and hours and hours. Well, long story, somewhat short. We worked out an arrangement. We had a couple of old mowers, zero-turn mowers, but they weren't working. And we kind of worked it out that if we would give those mowers to them for 1 year, they would cut our grass. And that relationship has just grown with that family. And we have seen God at work there. And we are continuing to pray for that family, and they continue to cut our grass. And it's just been an amazing experience, again, of building relationships with people, and then seeing God work through those relationships. As Carol Ann said, as we pray for workers, it's people who can help us reach the harvest. And for us to find that some of those workers are out in that harvest field has been an amazing experience for us. But you have to have eyes to see. And I think that's been so important for us that we continually pray on an ongoing basis. We went through this year's prayer journal as well, because the focus is the same. What is God saying to His church? We ask that for our denomination, Church of the Nazarene, but we're also asking it for our local church, and we're asking it for us individually. What is God saying? And again, presupposes that we're spending time with God, that we're asking Him, that we're listening, that we know what the voice of God sounds like to us. And so those are some of the things that we continue to teach our church family on a Sunday. It's just, what does the voice of God sound like to you? And then how can we follow through and how can we listen? So it's been an incredible journey for us here at LifeSpring for 1 year. We've been seeing God at work in amazing ways. There are times that it hasn't been as exciting as we make it. We're very positive. We are always optimistic that God's going to follow through. God is faithful, but it's also hard. There's also days that you wonder, just what in the world is going on. I mean, does God really know what He's doing? I mean, we know that, but it's still, there are days that we'll have to talk to Pastor Sam. And that always lifts us up because he's always got a good word, another perspective that is helpful. We appreciate a lot Pastor Sam and his leadership. We appreciate the South Carolina District, the District Advisory Board. You've been for us. We are so appreciative of that. All of the council, all of the help, the resources, from the financial resources, just to people coming alongside of us and saying, like, we're believing with you in what God has done. I've enjoyed the pastor's times away, and both Carol Ann and I have just been so appreciative of the Church of the Nazarene. 1 year in, and we feel right at home, and so we are thankful for the privilege of sharing with you today all that God is doing, and believing that God is going to continue to do that, and asking for you to continue to pray for us that God's will be done here as it is in heaven.